Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of the Hamilton Report. I'm Scott J. Hamilton, Executive Director of the Oklahoma Democratic Party. I say Oklahoma Party because I think we're the only ones that need to matter. But in fairness, we are the Oklahoma Democratic Party. I'm very happy that you're with us this evening, and you hear me say this every week, but I truly am grateful for the time that we get to spend together on Monday evenings. You know, we talk about a lot of different topics on this broadcast, and it's something that keeps me on my toes. And I learn something from all of our guests, and certainly from you folks at home too, because you're very generous with your thoughts, and I appreciate the things that you share with us to make your feedback makes the broadcast better and more in line with what you would like to see. So I encourage you to just continue to let us know what you would like to see on this broadcast, and we will certainly do everything we can to make that happen. I wanted to share something very important with you before I introduce our guest this evening, and that is tomorrow is a very important day because the Senate will be voting on the For the People Act. This is an incredibly important piece of legislation. President Barack Obama today wrote an op-ed piece that says this very clearly, that if we don't resolve these barriers to voting and all of the ramifications involved there, then we will certainly be facing a major crisis in our democracy. And so you'll see Senator Lankford's phone number and Senator Inhofe's phone number on the bottom of your screen. Tomorrow is the day when we are asking everyone everywhere across the country. We're joining hands with our colleagues from Democratic parties in other states to please call our senators and say, yes, you must support SB 1, which is the For the People Act. It will do so much to opening access to voting as opposed to doing what Republican legislatures around the country are doing, which is imposing new barriers to voting. So please take some time tomorrow, call Senator Lankford, call Senator Inhofe, and tell them that we must have the For the People Act. It's that important, not just for us now, but for the future of our country. And I don't say that lightly. It's extremely important. So with that, I'm going to do a hard transition in another direction. You know, we've had opinion leaders on this broadcast from all over the country dealing with a variety of topics. Some of these include bills that are being passed, legislation that's pending, or particular issues that people are concerned about, like reparative therapy, for example. Well, tonight we are taking a bit of a different turn, and we're talking about theater. And one of the reasons that I feel so comfortable in doing so is that President and Dr. Jill Biden have expressed their strong support of the arts. And after what our country's been through, the arts have certainly struggled. And so it's no small thing that Oklahoma City now has a new theater group, one that I'm very proud of. And I think you will be too as this half hour progresses. Now, this is about a program that I'm actually going to let the director tell you first. So it's with a great deal of pleasure that I'm able to welcome to the Hamilton Report, LàCharles Purvey. LàCharles, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Hey, Scott, thank you for having me.
Thank you. That's good. We have two guests, and we're working on some sound issues here. But let's talk first with LàCharles. LàCharles, tell us about The Exonerated.
The Exonerated is a documentary play piece that actually tells a true story of 6 individuals who were wrongly convicted and sentenced to death row. And then, as the title of the show suggests, they were exonerated.
How did you come about this piece and decide that this is a play that you wanted to direct, LàCharles?
You know, one of the big influences on me is our producer, Regina Ray Banks. This is a love piece of hers, And because it had her strong support, of course, I was going to go ahead and be on board. But it's a beautiful piece, and it tells a story of hopelessness all the way to the heights of hope.
Before I introduce Regina, who is standing by to join us, I need to let our audience know in full transparency that I am a cast member of this production. And it's not for that reason that we're featuring it tonight, but rather it's because it's such an important topic. And with that being said, you gave a nice introduction already, Regina Banks. Regina, so happy to welcome you to the Hamilton Report. How are you?
I'm so happy to be here. I am doing well. I watch your report often, so I'm really kind of excited to be in the space.
Well, I'm happy that you're here too. And you, I'm going to ask you to tell us about the show, but first, would you tell us about the Vanguard?
Absolutely. So I started the Vanguard in 2019, January of 2019, with the hopes of creating more opportunities for African-American artists in Oklahoma. I could see that there was a plethora of talent and not a lot of space to display it in. And so instead of complaining, I just decided that it was time to go ahead and launch a theater production company that I've always wanted to. And while it's theater production right now, our plans are definitely to expand into visual and performing arts as well. So even at every show that we produce, we try to highlight Black artists at our events with what we call the Black Carpet Experience. So we'll have an artist displaying their art. We'll bring in a musical guest or a performing artist to perform, as well as highlight some of the culinary artists in the area as well. So that is what we do at Vanguard. And hopefully in 2022, we'll be able to present our very first scholarship to a student majoring in fine arts at an Oklahoma institution. So
that's amazing. So tell us, what was it about this production that you said, we have to do this?
Absolutely. It was one of those productions that just tore at the heartstrings for me. As a freshman at OU, I was in class, President's Leadership class with Julius Jones. And so knowing his story and how his story impacts so many other people, it really began to break down the idea of freedom in America and how quickly it could be taken away. And I want to first give condolences to the family that lost their husband, lost their father that night. It's a horrible event. Someone was killed. And we know several people have done time for the crime. And Julius being one of those, but with so much surmounting evidence that seems to really point toward he wasn't there. So it's things like that when you know someone that is in prison for something that, it looks like he didn't do it.
Yeah,
that's tough. And just the idea of freedom in America being so easily lost. Watching when they see us about the Exonerated Central Park 5, really it hits home. I couldn't even finish that entire series. So what made this play so unique to me was that it talked about 6 individual people who were exonerated for crimes that they did not commit. Each of these 6 were on death row. So these people could have lost their lives. And they were already in prison for crimes that they did not commit.
And so some of them for a very, very long time.
Yeah, 22 years at the most. This play is, while it's done in a theatrical production, it is culled from live interviews with these people. The names have not been changed. The entire script was derived from transcripts with individuals that were connected to these exonerated 6. And another thing that I love about it, it tells the story of 3 Black men, 2 white men, and 1 white woman, all of which were on death row for crimes that they did not commit. So it's not just a Black issue. It's an American problem. And it needs to be fixed. It should not be so simple and easy to put someone on death row when there is mounting evidence that should say otherwise.
Yes, Democrats for a very long time have said that the death penalty is wrong, and there are many, many people who work daily to change that. But the reality is that a lot of people are sitting on death row today.
Yeah.
Sadly, many more have died as innocent people, and that's really a shame. Ask you, LàCharles, when you're working with the cast, and as Regina said, the script is really the very words of the people who were convicted and sentenced to death row. How do you, as a director, make differences within these people, with your actors, so that it's not the same story being told 6 different ways? Because each story is different.
One of the things I do is I leave it up to the individual actor to find an interpretation of the character. That's the first thing I do. And then once we get into the rehearsal process, we refine it, we kind of cull it back, I provide guidance and kind of a safety net, but it's kind of a marriage between actor and director, if I'm going to be honest about it, because it's the actor that's interpreting, but it's me that's guiding as a director. So, yeah.
And as you have been in rehearsals and you've watched the show start to come together, what emotions have you had other than those when you first read the script? What's changing now as you're seeing your characters really come to life?
Oh, I mean, a lot is changing. We all knew coming into it that these are real people that we're doing this story about, but as we continue on in rehearsal, you realize that these people are real people. These are not just characters based on somebody that's way over here. These are people that we can look up on the internet, and these are people that, that we can read about their lives. So these are real people. So I just, anger, hurt, frustration, all of those emotions that each of these 6 characters went through, I feel all of it, Scott, all of it.
Well, and I think that's a very good thing, because I do too. And it's my hope that everyone who sees this production walks away, if their minds aren't fully changed, at least questioning their stance on the death penalty. Because when you're talking about 6 people here, but each one of these people has a family, and they have friends, and they have coworkers, and so it's not just the 6; it's multiplied over and over and over.
Yes.
You mentioned Julius. Jimmy Lawson was one of the very first guests on the Hamilton Report, talking about Julius's plight, and we're looking forward to the day that both he and Julius will be able to appear on this broadcast together once he is truly freed. But as we've seen there, even if someone else admits to a crime, even if there's new evidence that someone else is guilty, it's still very, very hard to make changes and get someone off of death row and get them released from prison.
And might I add, it's also very expensive. The average death row trial costs upwards of $150,000. And most people don't have that lying around and don't have access to that kind of cash. And so you're subjected to, public defenders, which we all know many times they are overwhelmed. Now, I will say when it comes to death penalty cases, those tend to go toward a more, I don't want to say, what's the best way to say it?
More seasoned
attorneys who understand how to deal with a death row case. So they are getting good legal care, but it is still very expensive, very lengthy trials. And even if you come out innocent from that experience, your life has changed forever. Many of these trials are covered on television, and many times as viewers, they don't always know the backside of the story. There's always another story behind what you may see on the news.
It's really something when you think about someone being on death row for 10 years, 20 years or more.
Right.
Imagine this is 2021. Look at what has changed in the last 20 years in our society. I mean, the fact that we all carry computers around in our pockets today.
Mm-hmm.
That's because the cell phones that were here 20 years ago are not the cell phones we use every day. The technology, the way we bank, the way we order food, the way we deal with transportation, everything is different. So I cannot imagine the absolute culture shock that it must be for someone coming from prison and walking out as a freed person. How do you begin to recapture that lost time? And I think that sadly there probably isn't any way. You just have to figure out some kind of a new starting point.
Absolutely.
Well, Charles, I want to mention to our audience that it's a bit rare for you these days to be directing someone else's work because you are an accomplished playwright. I've seen many of your shows, and you direct most of your work.
Mm-hmm.
Is it different when you're handed the script of someone else's writing?
Yes, it is completely different for me, especially as a writer myself, because if I'm directing one of my shows, I can change it midstream in the middle of rehearsal if I want to. If I'm working on somebody else's stuff, I have to always be sure that I honor their work and their words. So yes, there's a difference. There's I'm not going to say more of a respect, but you treat it differently because you don't have as much leeway with somebody else's work as you do with your own, but it's still a great honor either way.
And this particular play was it was off Broadway for a good while in New York.
Mm-hmm.
There was a motion picture made of this show, wasn't there?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'm going to encourage people not to watch the movie until after you've seen the play.
Right.
I've not purposely not seen the movie because I want to wait until after the show closes. Regina, let me add, you mentioned the carpet experience a moment ago, and I love that term. What are tickets more expensive for that?
Great question. So with your ticket price comes the black carpet experience and the show. So all of our black carpet experiences start an hour before the show begins. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, our shows start at 7:00, but the black carpet experience starts at 6 p.m. And Sunday, we have our matinees that start at 3:00, and the black carpet will start at 2 p.m.
Okay. And do you have, how is the Vanguard funded? Do you solicit donations beyond ticket prices? How do you fund not just the organization, but a new production?
I give blood every Tuesday. Oh, goodness. We are funded by the goodness of our community. So many people have donated to make these shows available. It was always my plan to make sure that artists are paid for their work. I've been an artist all of my life. And so, in Oklahoma, there are not many venues where an artist can work and get paid. So absolutely, we receive donations through the goodness of the community. Our plan in 2022 is to be a nonprofit organization so that we can get some of the benefits that come along with that. And we've completed the process for the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. And so we're looking forward to those funds coming through as well just to kind of keep things going. COVID was a hard hit. That first show we produced in 2019, it did well. We had a little change in the bank, but COVID wiped out our 2020 season, and we've been on fumes ever since. So we are putting this show up on a wing and a prayer, but not just for the hopes of entertainment, but also to do work that has a mission and a vision to make an impact in the community.
And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to both of you this evening, because this is not just another theater group. This is a group that is concerned about obviously Black artists and as wide an audience as you can possibly garner. And this show, for example, this is a gutsy show to do. It's I don't think anybody is going to leave the theater whistling a tune, because it's not that kind of a play. And so you're already taking risk, but I see that as a very, very positive sign. And I'm grateful for the work that you're doing. I'm grateful for the vision that you both have. LàCharles, I want to go back to you for a moment. As you started to formulate the show in your mind, you went from the script to casting, and I'm sure that you had an idea of what you were looking for even before the first table read. Has that changed in the course of rehearsals?
Of course, it always changes. I mean, when you have great, brilliant, creative actors that you have cast, they will come up with some natural, some very organic moments. So of course it changes, because I may come into a rehearsal one thinking I want a character to be this way, but then this actor comes in and now I see the character is better that way. So it always changes, Scott. It's an ever evolving process.
Well, and I know, from an actor standpoint, it's also changes depending on who your audience is, because a particular show can be very different one night from the next, depending on what you're feeling from the audience. One of our viewers has this question: where's the theater located? We've talked about it, but we've never told anyone where exactly it is. So tell us where this production is going to be.
I'll jump in. The production will be located at Howard Theater, which is on the campus of Heritage Hall. And I must give a huge shout out to Heritage Hall, because they have been so benevolent in helping me on this production journey. They allow us to use their space. So the address is 1800 Northwest 122nd Street, Oklahoma City, 73120. And that will be in Howard Theater on Heritage Hall campus.
And tickets are available right here, correct?
Yes. Vanguard.com/tickets.
So that's that answers that question. And I just need to say, you think, oh, it's okay, it's a school, but let me tell you something. There's no way when I was in high school I could have ever dreamed of working on a stage that's beautifully equipped. It's a lovely theater, and it's really a professional experience for the audience as well. And I think that's important for everyone to know, that when they walk in, they are in for an evening of theater.
Yeah.
LàCharles, we there is a lot of adult content in this. It currently does not have a rating, but what are your thoughts on bringing younger people to see this show?
I would recommend probably high school and up for this one. I mean, there are some pretty real stories in this piece to just kind of keep it gentlemanly for the broadcast. But yeah, I would say high school and up. So maybe 14 and up, I would recommend. Regina, what do you think?
Absolutely. This is definitely a show that I would send high schoolers to. This is a conversation. It'd be great for a civics class, or even definitely a college audience. So this is a great show that will spark great conversation. That's what I love about this season that we're in right now, post George Floyd. There's so much conversation that is going across barriers that would have normally been well, it is still uncomfortable for some people to have tough conversations, but people are more willing to have these conversations now. And that's what we hope to do with this show: raise awareness, create conversation, and hopefully forward movement in getting rid of the death penalty and making it a lot harder to convict an innocent person.
I agree so much. You talked about a conversation starter. I can envision this as a family event, because since following a production like this can be very meaningful and I think very helpful. And as you point out, we're at a place right now where we need to be having difficult conversations. And this is a good way to start. Before we finish up our time together, LàCharles, as a director, as someone who loves the theater, why would you encourage someone to come see this show?
Because it's real. That's the best way I can describe it. It's real, and it's real.
Well, I think that sums it up. Regina, I'm going to ask you to keep us posted on what's happening with the Vanguard, because throughout Oklahoma, we need opportunities to showcase all people with talent, and right now is especially important. Showcase people of color, African Americans who for so long have not had an opportunity or certainly the chance to be recognized as they ought. And so this is a tremendous way to kickstart that. And I appreciate all that you're doing, and I'm going to count on you keeping us posted on all that you have coming up. Is that a promise?
Absolutely. You got it.
Regina Banks, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah.
And LàCharles, before I let you off, to give you shout outs as being a really great director to work for. You mentioned that you allow the artists to interpret the characters, and you do that with a gentle hand, and I appreciate that much. So thank you, not just for being here, but thank you for doing this important show. One that you'll be proud of for a long time. You're having interference from someone else there, so I'm not going to keep. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, and we'll talk real soon. Okay.
I think our sound went out.
Oh, you all were using the same sound. Can you hear me now? Okay. Well, I can still hear you. Thank you for joining us. And I'll look forward to seeing you all real soon. And with that, our time is just about up for this evening. I want to remind you again, please, and this is so important with what we're talking about here tonight and this play. If you continue to erode voting rights in this country, you will have a situation where it's easier to convict people, where it's easier to send them to death row and easier to kill them. That's just one example of why we must have the For the People Act. Tomorrow, please call Senator Lankford, call Senator Inhofe, and tell them we must have this act passed into law. Thank you for joining us tonight. I look forward to being with you one more time in the month of June. We'll be wrapping up Pride Month this next Monday evening. So I hope that you'll join me then. And until then, I'm going to ask you to please do me a favor. Take good care of yourself. Take good care of those that you love. And know that we appreciate you very, very much. Thank you for your support of your Democratic Party. From all of us here at the Hamilton Report and the Oklahoma Democratic Party, I'm Scott J. Hamilton, thanking you for being with us. Have a great evening.